welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today we're going to be creating 3 cards using our stitching dies in 3 different ways. And to do that we're going to be using the Spellbinders Stitching Die of the Month Club. So this is the club kit for April, so if you sign up to this club by I think it's the 27th of April, then you'll get this kit. And it's gorgeous. The last couple of months the stitching kit has been my favourite of all the ones I've been sent, and this month is no different. It's absolutely beautiful and really versatile. So this month we get this frame. So the frame comes in 3 pieces. You get the piece to cut the outer part of the frame, this bit which just embosses, it doesn't cut, and you can see that it adds this detail to the edge of the frame. And then this inner one cuts the middle, but obviously you can use them separately as well. So for example, I've cut this with the larger oval so that that can sit behind. You could create an aperture with the smaller oval, things like that. So there's lots of versatility within that. And then you get this piece which can kind of make it into a little kind of embroidery frame, which is really cute. So then we've got our flowers. So we've got 2 flower dies, and this die cuts out the 2 centres, and this leaf which cuts like this. So those are our stitching dies. And I wanted to do this video because you can see these dies are intended to be stitched, but I think that this detail just makes them really pretty as they are as well. Kind of a little bit whimsical. So we're going to be using them in different ways today. But I will stitch them on the last card as well, so you can see what that looks like. Then we've got, for you, we've got this piece which can be added to here, and you can add this little tag to the end. So the tag's made up of these 2 pieces. Then we've got this leaf here. We've got this that is made up from this and this together. And then we also have this which is made up from this and this together. And so you can see it's a really lovely set. So for this first card, I wanted to make a shaped card. So I'm going to use the ovals to make a shaped card. It will be smaller than a normal card front. So this measures 4 3/4 by 3.5 inches. But I think it'll make ever such a cute card. So to create our shaped card front, I've got 2 cream ovals, and those are cut with the larger of the oval dies. And I'm just going to put this in. I'm going to put it in 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to cut that 1/4 inch off. So that's going to be the bottom of the back of our card so that it stands up nicely. Then I'm going to turn that around, and I'm going to put it in at 1/2 inch here, and I'm going to make sure that this edge is straight here so it's parallel. And then I'm going to score that. So I'm going to add some glue above that score line, and then I'm going to add this one to the front. You can use that method to create a card front from most of your shape dies. So you can see now that we've cut this off here, then it stands up nicely, it doesn't rock and roll. So then I'm going to add on this frame that we cut. So I've used all 3 pieces for this frame. And actually what I should have done before that, because I want to add this little tab to the top, so I'm going to add that just under that frame. So then while we do that, we'll make up some of our pieces. So I'm not going to do anything fancy on this one. I'm just going to make up the pieces without any kind of stitching or anything like that. So I've got this piece here, and I've got the 5 little gold kind of buds. So I'm just going to add a little dot of glue to each of those circles, and then I like to use a pickup pencil for this, so I'm just going to attach these onto the end of those little circles. For some reason my pickup pencil doesn't seem to want to pick up these today, which is funny because it was doing them yesterday when I made up these, but it's clearly just decided it doesn't like them today. Hopefully it'll pick up these blue ones. They are doable with your nails. It's not that difficult, but I do prefer to use the pickup pen, so it does make it easier. You might not be able to see it very well on camera, but I'm using a lot of textured cardstock for the colours today because I like the added dimension that it brings. So all that we're going to do with these today is just add on the centres. So now I'm just going to lay these out so I know how I want them on my card front. And I like that how that looks, so I'm going to start gluing those down. So I'm gluing all the pieces that fit under the flowers first, because I think I probably want to add the flowers on foam pads, so I want the other pieces to be in place. So then we can add our foam pads behind here. And then this for you is super fine, so I'm going to use my glue dots to add those on. These are micro glue dots. And you just varnish them on the back. And then it's nice and sticky. And then I've got these Spellbinders Fashion Gold gems. And I'm just going to put one of those in the centre of each of these flowers. And that will stand up like that. So that's our first card finished. So for my second card, I want to add some little pearls over the holes. I think this is another really nice way to use the holes that are on these stitching dies, is to cover them with gems. It means that your gems are really nicely spaced, and it also means that you get a really pretty bejeweled effect and a nice pattern. So you could go all out and literally cover all of the dots on the whole flower, the leaf. You could do everything. But I am just going to go with the centre of these flowers because I think it kind of makes the flower look a bit like a brooch when it's got these really nice, like, kind of bejeweled centres. So then for this card, I'm going to bring in a couple of the other clubs. So the first one is this embossing folder of the month club. You can see all the embossing folders that come in these clubs are really big. They're 8.5 by 5.5 inches, so you can get 2 card fronts side by side. You can do your 5x7s, you can do like your long cards, you can do all sorts with these. But I've used this to emboss a cream oval. So for this one I've cut the same frame as the last one, but I've done it in blue, and then I've got this embossed oval. And then I'm also going to bring in this scrap piece of cream cardstock because we're going to be using the clear stamp and die of the month for this as well. So we're going to be using this happy here and this birthday. I want to heat emboss those in gold onto the cream cardstock. So with this clear stamp and die of the month, you get the dies to cut out this happy, the high, this handmade with the scissors, this heart, stitch just for you. Take it one stitch at a time and thinking of you with each stitch. The other small ones, there are no dies for, they're just small sentiments. So with this one, I'm going to heat emboss this and cut it out with the die, and then this birthday I'm going to cut out separately. So then I'm going to grab my polished gold superfine embossing powder. And that's from Wow. And then I'll heat that up. Die cut this out and I'll just cut around this. So then I've got a 4.25 by 5.5 inch cream card blank, and I'm going to add my frame over that embossed oval. And again, I forgot to put my little tab in, so let's just add that in before the glue is fully dry. Then I'm going to add this onto my card. Now I'm going to add this to this one as well. And then I'll add this at the end. I'm going to add my sentiment. And then I'm going to add the birthday on foam strip. So then I'm going to add our bejeweled centres to our flowers. And then I want to be able to see a lot of this embossed piece, so I'm adding the flowers around the outside on this one. So then I can glue those pieces down. And I'm going to add my flowers on foam pads again. And then there's our second card completed. And I love those bejeweled centres. So then for our final card we are going to stitch the dies. So you can see I've done this centre already. I'm going to do this one in the same way. And all I'm going to do is just go from the centre out to the edge and back into the centre again. And I'm going to do that right around the circle, and I'm just trapping that piece that we started off with underneath the stitches as I go, so that that's not going to come through. And then I'm going to thread the thread through some of those stitches again at the back. So then we've got our embroidered centre, and then I'm going for tonal stitching on the flowers. I'm going to go for this lighter pink for the dark flower, and then this darker pink for the light flower. So for all of my stitching today I'm using 2 strands of thread, by the way. So for these bigger pieces I'm going to just add the thread behind with a little piece of tape, because that makes it easier. The smaller pieces are a little bit small for that, but it's good. So I'm coming up on any one of these holes, and then I'm just going down to the corresponding hole in the middle. So then all of these holes around here are going to go into this one hole. And it's really easy to see what goes into which hole because the lines are embossed on there for you. So you can see all those ones are going into this hole. And then we skip along to this hole, and that one only has this one going into it. And then all of these ones go into this hole, so all the ones on each petal go into one hole, and then there's one strand between each petal where there's just one hole to one hole. Sounds more complicated than it is. There's line guides on the die for you. And obviously I'm using tone on tone, but you could go with contrast threads or metallic threads. There's so many ways to kind of make this really individual. And the other thing is that although we have made a centre for this, you can see there's actually a centre hole as well. So you could not use that centre and do maybe another colour or something going into this centre, just using the same stitch as we did for our flower centre, and have like a 1-layer piece. So we've got that, and I'll attach that again at the back. So this other flower is slightly different in the way that it's stitched, but it's actually very similar to about how we did the flower centres. So all you're doing is going into the middle and up and out to the outsides, and that's literally it. You're just taking each hole in turn and going up the middle and out. Then I'm going to add foam pads behind the centres and add them onto my flowers. And I think that those are really, really cute. So then we're going to decorate our card base. I've got a 5x7 inch blue card base here. I'm going to decorate it with this Glimmer of the Month kit. And it's like all these stitching pieces. And you could use them as a border, you can use them as a pattern. Today we're going to use them as a pattern. And you also get these sentiments. So I've got stitched with love, you are so amazing, with the so spelled S-E-W, and so thankful. And then you've got this, which can cut out these curvy ones. So with the Glimmer kit this month, you get this moon dust foil, which is really gorgeous, pale blue. I don't want to use that on this card. I'm going to use my gold on this card. So I'm going to cut a piece of foil that's big enough to go across my card. And then I'm going to lay these out on a bit of an angle. So I'm going to hold those in place with some of my tape. I'm just going to trim this excess foil off here. So I've got my Glimmer machine heated up. I'm going to put that way onto there, and then I'm going to press my timer button. Now this has stopped flashing, then I can put it through my die cutting machine. So then I can put this straight back in here for our next pass. And then we've got that gorgeous foiling. You can see it's over foiled a little bit here on the edge. And I recently learnt a new trick for this, which is to use a glue eraser. And look, it gets rid of that quite nicely. So then I'm going to grab my roll of gold foil again. And then I'm just going to use the edge of my card just to cut that down. So now I'm just going to add these on and continuing following the pattern. And I'm using the two that we didn't use before, and then I'm carrying on with the ones from the top. And then I can go ahead and hot foil that. Just to note, because I'm foiling directly onto my card front, so basically I've got an extra piece of cardstock behind than I would normally have, then I'm actually just using this plate and 2 cardstock shims and not using this plate like I usually would, just because if I used this plate and had the extra piece of cardstock, I'd get too much over foiling. And just as I was putting the Glimmer pieces away, I just noticed in the bottom of my bag there's actually a happy stitching foil sentiment as well. So then we've got this card front. I just want to note that you do get this kind of embossed bit inside from this. If you want to avoid that, then I would just do a card front with this stitching detail on it, then add it to the front of your card before we do this next part. But I'm actually going to glue something in here anyway, so it's not really going to affect my card too much. So now that we've got that done, I want to create an aperture in my card front. This is the smallest of those oval dies from the set, and I'm going to just cut it out of here. And remember, you want to put it through your die cutting machine open, not closed, otherwise you're going to cut through the back of your card as well. So now I've got this aperture, and the other bonus is I've got this that I can use on another card. So then I've got this, which is a 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 inch piece of cream cardstock, and I'm going to glue that inside my card. And then I've got one of these frames that I created just like the first card, and I'm going to glue that around the aperture. And so this time we're just using it as a frame, we're not using it as like an embroidery hoop type thing. So then I've got this thanks, which I've cut with this thanks die, which is from the small die of the month set, and I'm going to put that inside my card, and I want to put it on a slant so it just shows through like that. And then I've got my gorgeous stitch details to add on. And you know, I almost forgot to stitch our leaf. So I'm going in at the bottom, then I'm going into the next one out, into the next one up that's in the middle, into the next one on the outside, into the next one that's in the middle, and to the next one that's on the outside. I'm doing this all the way up the side of the leaf. Then I'm going to leave that top hole for a second. I'm going to go back down the other side in the same manner, so I'm going from the outside into the middle and working my way down. And then finally I'm just going to go up the middle of the leaf, so I'm just going up and down through all the holes. This is where I will go into that top hole. And then I'm going to come back down and fill in the gaps. And then I can just secure my thread behind. And then we've got our cute stitch leaf. So let's get those glued on. And then I want to add on the flowers with foam pads. I'm putting the foam pad to one side because obviously I don't want it to overlap the aperture. And then that's that final card finished. So then there are all 3 of today's cards. I hope it's given you some different ideas of things to do with your stitching dies. Please do let me know in the comments below which one's your favourite. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below, and you can also find a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.